I don't consider myself to be an expert of any kind when it comes to World War II shooters. I've played a decent number of the Medal of Honors, most of the Call of Duties, and a few other unknown and infamous ones, but I know there's a great deal more that I haven't played. However, I can say that out of all of them I've played so far, Enemy Front is the most boring and unremarkable one out of the bunch, because there's almost nothing that I liked or that kept me interested in this game. Released in 2014, a time where World War II had long been forgotten by shooters, replaced with an endless stream of generic modern military shooters, this was a surprise to me not only for its setting but also where it was taking place. In Poland during the Warsaw Uprising of 1944. Something that, as far as I can tell, had never been explored in a video game before. Pretty much every World War II game was on the Western Front in Europe or the Pacific, with a few games taking place on the Eastern Front from the Russians' point of view. So I thought, hey, this might be pretty awesome, especially considering everyone at this point was pretty much fed up with modern military shooters, and it was. Until it wasn't, which happened pretty quickly. Yeah, Enemy Front starts off during the Warsaw Uprising, but quickly takes you away from Poland through a flashback leading to the main character Robert Hawkins and his adventures in France. Every now and then you're brought back to Poland for a quick level before taking you to more flashbacks for some reason. I guess it's supposed to show Robert's early exploits and how he evolved into a resistance fighter, because he starts out being a journalist and just wants a good story, but then he joins the resistance and winds up in Poland somehow. The story is incredibly boring. Robert doesn't have much of a personality, and if he does go through some type of development, the game certainly doesn't show it, so I guess he's supposed to be a blank slate that the player is supposed to project themselves onto. Maybe. And every other character, I can't even remember their names despite having just played the game at the time I'm writing this script. There's not even a main bad guy to go after. I guess it's supposed to be the war itself, or Robert's journey as to how he became the brave resistance fighter, or something like that. I don't know and I don't care, because the game never gave me a fucking reason to care. Even Robert's journey from journalist to freedom fighter is so discombobulated and leaves out probably 80% of the important events. Like I just said, there's hardly any characters, never mind character development, and whoever wrote this mess of a story, hey buddy, characters are the cornerstone of any good story. So if you don't have those, then you don't have a story. But you know what? I will give it this much. There's a flashback where you go to Norway with a team to destroy some heavy water the Germans are making, and even though this isn't saying much, it's still more believable than the version we got in Battlefield 5. As far as graphics go, Enemy Front runs on the CryEngine, and it looks good enough. Not great, but it definitely gets the job done. It's one of the few brownie points I can give this game, and it's even more surprising considering the game was built for the 7th generation consoles, PS3 and such, and that it was never released on the 8th generation. Probably had something to do with the non-existent sales, but anyways. The levels are pretty detailed, texture work is nice for the most part, the lighting and gun models are good, and the character models are okay. But the one thing I really love, my favorite part about the graphics, is that City Interactive wisely decided to put a whole bunch of color into the mix, instead of the typical brown and gray realistic bullshit that had plagued the genre for years at this point. No, this game is very pleasant to look at. Even when you're in gray areas like military bases or something, the colors are still a lot more pronounced. Even the browns and grays you'll find in these areas don't look anywhere near as bland and boring as the military bases in most other shooters of the time. It's weird. I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and it's a very pleasant surprise. Now, there are obvious signs of it being a 7th generation game, even on the PC, like the low-resolution textures on the foliage, but you don't notice it until you get up close, and even then, you're just running through the foliage 99% of the time, so it wasn't a deal-breaker. And besides objects magically materializing into existence, some awkward animations, and loading screens and cutscenes that have a resolution so hideously low they rival that of the PS2 days, I couldn't find anything terribly wrong with the game's graphics, at least nothing that I could really notice. But I still can't help but shake my head in disappointment when I see how good the graphics are compared to everything else. It's such a waste. Wasted time, talent, and energy from the few people that had some actual passion when they worked on this game that they probably could have put towards a game much more deserving of their time. But moving on, as far as the sound department is concerned, The voice acting is a cross between getting the job done and being phoned in, most of the sound effects are okay, but a lot of the guns sound depressingly underpowered, and the music, I guess that's just there, with the lone exception being this one piece that used to play after every fucking battle ended, and I got tired of hearing it. But that's the least of this game's problems right now, because moving on to the gameplay, oh boy. If you've played any other World War II shooter, you've played Enemy Front, and probably a better version of it. You run through the levels and shoot the bad guys. That's it. There's nothing else to it. You run through shooting the same bad guys you've shot 1,000 times before, with the same weapons, and you don't have any major goal you're working towards. There's no secret lair, no super weapon you have to steal, not even a bad guy to go after. And don't count on the level design to be the saving grace here either. What I find really funny is that the game was marketed as being open world and some of the levels try to project themselves as such, but they're not. Enemy Front is a standard linear shooter. Granted, there's very few scripted events, so it's not as bad as something like Call of Duty, but make no mistake, there's only one path to the end of every level. Just because you're not constantly railroaded through the level with one scripted event after another, that doesn't make it open world. There are times where you'll get a secondary objective to complete, 2 different paths to pick from, and secrets you can find, but they all make next to no fucking difference unless you're going after trophies or something. But why the fuck anyone would want to go after the trophies in a game like this is beyond me. Now, even all of this added up wouldn't be so bad if the combat was good, but it's not. It's unrelentlessly boring. The AI is as dumb as a rock, having no fighting skills other than pop out from behind cover and shoot a few bullets, and they all have as much self-preservation as a turkey at Thanksgiving dinner. The gunplay itself is practically the cure for insomnia. None of the guns feel like they have any impact or power to them, which isn't helped out by the bad sound effects, and as a result, none of them are any fun to shoot. Grenades and Molotovs are practically useless as well, except when taking out vehicles due to their small blast radius and that they take forever to explode, and even running around feels off. When you first start trying to move, or when you try to make any type of small, precise movements, it feels like you're driving a truck loaded with cement in the middle of Manhattan, yet when you're moving around or sprinting, it feels like Robert is skating on greased ice, slipping and sliding all over the goddamn place. There's also a stealth mechanic that's not worth using despite the AI having about as many brain cells as a garden hose, because number one, the takedown animations take far too long to complete, and second, the gunfights are rarely, if ever, challenging. Enemy Front plays like it was designed for a 10-year-old, despite having an M rating. Now what do I mean by this? Well, have any of you guys noticed the giant fucking radar on the lower left-hand corner? Yeah, this radar right here gives the one in Metal Gear a run for its money. It shows the exact position of all the bad guys at all times, sports a detection meter for the stealth, and there's even a different hit marker when you shoot the bad guys and after you deliver the fatal shot, thereby completely removing any and all challenge from the game because there's no way to turn this stupid thing off. And what really sucks is that the enemies can blend in pretty well with the environment at times, so if I could have at least turned the radar off, that would have given a few brownie points to the game, but no such luck, I guess. And by the way, yeah, I'm familiar with the little hack you can do to completely remove the HUD, but number one, I don't want the entire HUD gone, just the radar, and secondly, the game doesn't work so well when you do that. As if it worked well before, but I'll get to that in a minute. You also have regenerating health, and it not only does a terrible job at letting you know when you're about to die, but Robert can take surprisingly few hits before he kicks the bucket, even on normal difficulty. I guess that was City Interactive's way of trying to make it challenging, but clearly no one on the team understands how to make a real challenge versus substituting a gimmick for a challenge. Oh, and there's a waypoint for your objectives at all times. Yeah, because these straight line levels are so confusing to navigate. The game is also pretty buggy. Most of them are funny bugs, but it did crash on me quite a few times, especially when loading into a new level. As far as I can tell, Enemy Front has never been patched. There's nothing in the update history on Steam. So let's see here. We have no real story, no interesting objective to go after, and gunplay that defines the word boring. That's the single player. So how's the multiplayer? Well, we've got deathmatch, team deathmatch, and capture and hold the points. Nothing you can't get anywhere else, unless you want to spend some extra money to get the DLC. Then you've got a fourth mode called the Great Escape, where one team plays as prisoners, the other plays as the guards, and the prisoners try to escape. At least I think that's how it goes, because I didn't get to play that mode. And just in case you're wondering how populated the servers are... yeah. I got to play 2 whole matches. Enemy Front was on sale back in November of 22 for $2, and I invited anyone on my Discord server who had the game to play a few matches with me. One person had it. And surprise, surprise, we were the only 2 people playing. So even if you can find someone to play multiplayer with you, your options, sadly, are the absolute bare minimum. And by the way, I didn't get to play The Great Escape because the friend I played with didn't have it, and it's not like it even fucking matters, because is Enemy Front worth playing? Well, in case you haven't figured it out by now...
No.
Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I am gonna recommend playing this. If you can find a used copy in a dustbin somewhere, or you keep a damn good track of your time so you don't go over the 2-hour limit, I will recommend playing Enemy Front just to see how offensively safe and generic it is. I had to force myself to play this. And not the kind where I'm saying to myself, okay, this is really boring, but I guess I'll keep going. No, I was saying to myself, holy shit, I don't want to fucking be here, but I have to keep going. It was almost painful to play this game at times. Which is why, if you decide to play it, after you're done torturing yourself, go play literally any other World War II shooter out there for a better experience. Any of the Medal of Honors, the Call of Duties, the Wolfensteins, Commandos, Strike Force, any World War II shooter you can think of. Hell, I'll even recommend Hour of Victory and Turning Point Fall of Liberty over this game. Yeah, I said it, and I mean it. I'm not kidding. Because Enemy Front isn't the most objectively bad World War II game I've played, but it's the most boring. Even other World War II games I've played that could be considered objectively worse still had something, anything, that I was interested in to keep me going. Case in point with Hour of Victory and Turning Point. Hour of Victory had a main villain, and better gunplay no less, and Turning Point had a cool premise, or even if it was just the charm as to how janky and broken they were. Or if nothing else, you can get them both for free. I've put links in the description for you, but bottom line, they had something. Enemy Front has literally nothing, and what really sucks is that it could have had something. There's a few videos you can find which were posted around 2012, featuring an older version of Enemy Front, which looks like a completely different game. I've put a link to one of the videos in the description, and it has characters, locations, weapons, and a story that was never in the final game. And the real kicker is the guy who's giving the demo is Stuart Black, the brainchild behind the 2006 game Black, and he worked on Body Count, the spiritual successor to Black, as it was called, before he left halfway through development. Then he went to work on Enemy Front until he left halfway through development again. But anyways, this older version of Enemy Front looked and felt a lot like Body Count. It was almost like taking Body Count and putting it in a World War II setting. I know Body Count wasn't anything to write home about, hell, it barely hit the mark of being decent, but you know what? I'd much rather play that than Enemy Front, and I certainly would have taken this older version any day of the week over what we got. Even in its obviously unfinished state, it still looked a whole lot fucking better. It makes me wonder what the hell happened during development, especially after Stuart left. Like, how did we go from this to what we got so quickly? Was the game that we got hastily cobbled together within like 18 months or something? Wouldn't surprise me, but still, I can't help but wonder. And what also leaves me really perplexed is, how did City Interactive go from the first Sniper Ghost Warrior, which was damn good fun, to the absolute travesty that was the second Ghost Warrior, and then to this fucking snooze fest? Maybe it was the switch in the engine because they redeemed themselves with Ghost Warrior 3, but still. Only play Enemy Front to see how boring it is, and then get rid of it. Alright kids, thanks for watching. If you're already subbed to the channel or are about to, be sure to hit the bell so you get notified when I post a video, hit the like button, and give me some feedback. I don't care if it's good or bad.